Beth and Tom had been married for nearly 50 years, and in those 5 decades, they perfected the art of bickering. Their arguments were legendary among family and friends, and the neighbors had long since stopped worrying about the raised voices coming from the little house on Maple Street. Despite the constant squabbles, anyone could see that Beth and Tom adored each other. Their love was as old and stubborn as they were, unshakable, and not without its fair share of drama. One evening after dinner, they found themselves in yet another heated argument. Tom had forgotten to close a window, and now a chill had settled in the living room. Beth, who prided herself on keeping a tidy and cozy home, was livid. Tom, how many times do I have to tell you? The draft is going to give me pneumonia, she scolded, her hands on her hips. Beth, you're not made of glass. A little cold air never hurt anybody. Tom shot back, his voice gruff but not unkind. As the argument escalated, Beth noticed a large stone sitting on the edge of the garden, brought inside by one of their grandchildren earlier that day. Without thinking, she picked it up, her eyes narrowing in irritation. Beth, put that thing down, Tom warned, his eyes widening as he saw her heft the stone in her hands. Oh, I'll put it down all right, she replied with a mischievous glint in her eye. And before Tom could react, Beth dropped the stone right on his right foot. Tom yelped in pain, hopping on one leg as Beth, realizing what she had just done, took off out the front door, her heart pounding, not with fear, but with exhilaration. Beth, don't run. You know you can't outrun me, Tom called out after her, hobbling out the door. This will be an all-night fight tonight. Beth was already halfway down the path, her laughter echoing in the cool evening air. She hadn't run like this in years, and the feeling was thrilling. Tom, limping and cursing under his breath, couldn't help but chuckle as he followed her, shaking his head. The chase went on for longer than either of them expected. Beth zigzagged through the garden, her laughter growing louder as Tom struggled to keep up, one hand clutching his injured foot. Finally, she tripped over a loose paving stone and fell onto the soft grass. Tom reached her just as she tried to scramble back to her feet. But he was quicker, despite his throbbing foot. He collapsed next to her, breathless and laughing. Are you out of your mind, Beth? Tom gasped, still chuckling despite the pain. Dropping a stone on my foot like that? What if you'd broken it? Beth looked at him, her eyes twinkling with affection and mischief. Well, if you weren't such a stubborn old fool, I wouldn't have had to. Tom grinned, shaking his head in disbelief. You know, we're too old for this nonsense. Speak for yourself, Beth shot back, still laughing. I haven't had this much fun in ages. They lay there for a moment, catching their breath, the argument forgotten. The stars were just starting to peek out from the twilight sky, and the cool breeze was gentle on their flushed faces. I suppose you're expecting me to kiss you now, Tom teased, his tone softer than before. You better, Beth replied, leaning in. And so, there in their garden under the evening sky, they shared a kiss that was as familiar and comforting as their bickering. The fight was far from over. Knowing them, it would never be, but that was just fine. After all, love, like life, wasn't about never fighting. It was about knowing that at the end of the day, you'd always chase after the one who mattered most.